Hey Katie, how you doing? Okay. JPEGs don't load right into discussion. I mean, I click on this PDFs. Would have been away from. Okay. I feel like the gradient Malalas photo feels a bit choppy. That could be a JPEG rendering. It shouldn't be. I'm not really seeing an issue with it at all. I think the gradient actually looks. I think it looks pretty good. It follows the concept beautifully, so that's good. I like the way the poster turned out. I think conceptually it's really really strong. Um, I feel okay. I also think maybe the lettering on the front will look better without the added texture. I agree. I'll talk about that in a second. I added, in addition to its gradient. I think those are the final things I'd like to change. All right, let's go and take a look. Um, okay, front of the poster. I agree. Since that texture isn't used in the timeline, I would say go ahead and remove it from the front. Now you can do one of two things. You can remove it from the front or add it to the timeline in the back. I'm not real sure if this is a pretty thin timeline, so I'm not real sure if these attributes will even be visible. These kind of triangular attributes will even be visible in the timeline. So think about that. You want consistency there. So think about that. Try it. Try applying the texture to the timeline, and if it works, that's fantastic. You just want to make sure that it's visible. Um, and I think that would tie the front in with the back beautifully. If it doesn't work, then just go ahead and remove it here. I think, I'll tell you what, I love the use of negative space on the front of the poster. I think it's really gorgeous. It indicates that you're not afraid to use negative space, and that's fantastic. One of the things that I would recommend is I would capitalize courage and perseverance, only because she is just such a dynamic and such a courageous individual that I think that just I mean just in terms of connotative meaning, I think that capitalizing those courage and perseverance, I don't think it's going to hurt at all. I really don't. You're going to have to pull this away a little bit. You're going to have to increase the leading um, associated with this headline and the subhead. But I think try it. Tell me what you think. See how you feel about it, and go ahead and try it. And if it works out, then go ahead and leave it. One thing I want to mention, excuse me, excuse me. One thing I want to mention is I'm looking at this and I know it's a JPEG, so I can't really throw a ruler on it, but this doesn't look 11 by 17. So I'm wondering if it is indeed 11 by 17. It just could be me. I don't know, but make sure you check. Make sure you check, definitely. So, all right, let's go ahead and take a look at the type in the back of the poster. A couple of things, and I'm going to zoom in for this. So let me see. How do I want to do this? Like this. Okay. This looks like all caps in northwestern Pakistan instead of small caps. Now, if you want to dress up the beginning of the bio paragraph, definitely it's a great technique using caps, but it's got to be small caps. Otherwise, this is just really, really, it really throws off the spacing, as you can see here. So I would recommend using small caps in there. Regs are looking pretty good on the first column. The second column, you could use some adjustments here. Like that at can be just hold your shift key and your return and just bring that right down to the next line. Shot can probably be brought down to the next line. The word to just really try to readjust these so you get some more even regs. Right now, that shot is too long. That distance between the shortest line and the longest line is too long. So that's really long. That's super long, and these two are too. So let's try to get that adjusted. There's two typographic widows in the first two columns of type, education and countries. Remember, a widow is a word sitting on a line alone. That's a widow. An orphan is a word that would, if this word were dropped up here, that would be an orphan. But since it's at the end of the paragraph, that's called a widow. Okay, another area that I was a little concerned about is right here, October 9th, 2012, 15-year-old. So it looks like, I'm not exactly sure what happened right here, but this should be, what I would recommend here is using old style numerals. True old styles. These look like they've just been reduced. The October here is definitely a different typeset than uh, these first three, were the rest of that text. So that's really unusual. Same thing with 15-year-old. So I'm wondering what happened to this type right here, October 9th, 2012, 15-year-old. It's just really, really set completely differently. We see the same thing right over here. age 17. The 17, again, it looks, I'm not real sure if that's an old style. I'm not 100% positive, or if you just reduce the size. Let me know um, about that. The other thing, I think the type is a little bit large. I really do. I think it's just a little bit large. But other than that, I think your typeset looks pretty good. One thing I noticed is that the tracking is super tight. Your letters are actually touching. I mean, I would definitely open that tracking up a little bit in both columns and increase that, lighten up the typographic color a little bit there. Okay, the timeline itself, I think the timeline looks pretty good. I'm wondering if you can find old style numerals in this typeface or a similar sans serif typeface. But right now we've got some widows here too. Now this is technically really a kind of a slippery area because you've got center type with minimal words. Therefore, one word is typically going to be thrown down to the end. That's technically an orphan. What I would recommend doing is instead of going 2 lines, I would just go one longer line. Okay, so Malala is born. Just bring born right up there. Malala is born. 400 Pakistani schools, bring destroyed up here. Malala is shot, 1 line. Malala speaks at the UN. That's okay. But think about left aligning these two, because right now they're just creating these really unusual negative shapes around the counterform. So definitely think about left aligning those, or man, it's kind of reconfigure. That's a little ambiguous. That minimal text center aligned is really ambiguous because it creates these really unusual shapes. So think if you can see if you can work out something there. Other than that, I think you're looking fantastic. So those are my recommendations moving forward. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. I'll be glad to clarify. Good work. Thank you very much.